Oi, oi, it's your boy, Jackery Slackery, and it's the Jack Slack I Hate MMA Above Middleweight Hour with Jack Slack. How's things? Middling amount of fights going on this weekend, some not very good, a couple that I care about. But I thought it'd be a good time to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the world of MMA and answer a couple of questions. I think the big news for everyone, drama alert, return of Jose Aldo. Out of nowhere. I suppose it must be hard to watch Merab Dvalishvili do better things to people who are ranked above you and realise, like, oh, I haven't actually lost it. I was really competitive with this guy and I gassed out because for some reason they had a guy who isn't famous for his gas tank fight in Utah. Salt Lake City, that is. The card where everyone gassed. And Aldo was doing decently, and then in the last round he's just like, I don't have anything left, I'm knackered. Or it could be that he needs money because he's a professional fighter and they often do end up needing money quite soon after. Well, I mean, especially if you've got to fund your defense fund for possibly enabling and being involved in Brazilian January 6th or whatever it was. If you missed all that, there was a bunch of Bolsonaros were rioting, and Bolsonaro was at that moment in time staying in the Minion-themed room in Jose Aldo's house in America. Very weird. Took a break from being hospitalised every other day. I'm actually going to be talking about Mark Coleman in a minute, and he is really unfortunate with his health in the last couple of years. Constantly, every news piece is Mark Coleman back in hospital. But I really like this fight for Jose Aldo. He's fighting Jonathan Martinez, who is very, very good. You know, I say this every time. I'm like, oh, young fighters should be looking at Jonathan Martinez. He's good at everything. But his game is very kick-centric, and he doesn't drive a high pace or a high volume. So you're Jose Aldo, the one man in MMA who can actually check kicks. And you've always had a low output, and you're going, well, I'm struggling to put out even as many punches as I used to. And they say, we've got a guy who's going to throw his hardest kicks he can at you, naked. And you say, okay, I like my chances of breaking this dude's shin in half without throwing any strikes of my own. No, it's great to have him back. I mean, he's one of the best ever. And the uptick on, I put out that podcast about Tuivasa versus Tybura on Monday. Didn't expect much of a viewership compared to normal. It was fine, did okay. But in the same period, the Filthy Casuals Guide to Jose Aldo just sprung back from the dead, like 20, 30,000 views and loads of subscriptions. I'm 58 away from the 100,000. And then YouTube have to send me a plaque saying I'm great. So people are really into this. There's a couple of people, chime in and like, oh, you called him the GOAT. He can't be the GOAT. He lost to McGregor in 13 seconds. It's like, only people who don't know anything about Jose Aldo don't think of him as one of the all-time greats. The level he performed at for the length of time he did it was insane. Is insane. If he comes back and he's competitive against Martinez, to be competitive with top 15 fighters in that division at 37 years old, in his 20th year of professional fighting, would be very, very impressive. Of course, this could be the time that the wheels fall off the Aldo wagon. He could just turn up and not do enough. He could turn up and be blown out of the water. But the thing that made the McGregor performance so incredible, which is what I was trying to get across to my publisher at the time, and he wasn't interested in 5,000 words about Jose Aldo in the middle of the book, but Jose Aldo doesn't get finished like that. Jose Aldo doesn't tend to get blown out of the water too much. That was what was incredible about Piotr Jan before he started losing. But Alexander Volkanovski edged a 3-round decision. Again, last round, he was like holding Aldo against the fence and kneeing his thigh. Merab Dvalishvili edged a 3-round decision. Last round, humping him against the fence. I think the real shame here is that there's a much more interesting matchup at bantamweight for Aldo. That makes as much sense. Throw him in against Umar Nurmagomedov, a guy who has good kicks and long takedowns and bad hands, versus a man who can deal with kicks better than almost anyone in the division and has some of the best takedown defense in the history of MMA. I think that'd be a very interesting test for Umar. But the word is he was offered it and turned it down and was shaking in his pants when he did so, which is what I'm telling everyone now, because there's as much proof of that as all the accusations of people ducking Umar. But I do think that would be a really fun matchup. But anyway, other news, Mark Coleman. If you haven't seen the Mark Coleman news, woken by his dog. His house was on fire. His parents were inside. He carried them both out and ran back for his dog and passed out in the smoke trying to save his dog. Unbelievable story. Actual, like, cynical ass me is like, that dude's a hero. It's even more impressive because if you've seen Mark Coleman in recent years, he can barely walk. He's had like 3 hip replacements. Every other week there's news that he's back in the hospital with something. He got checked out from this one, having woken up from a medically induced coma because he was intubated. He woke up from that. They discharged him and he was immediately brought back in because he had pneumonia. And then yesterday, Matt Brown's got a photo with him in the gym back there. Absolute legend.